soul.
This is Bass Talk Live. Your host, Mark Jeffries and Matt Pangrak. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Lose, Strike King Lures, Bass Cat Boats, Ducket Fishing, Spro, AFCO, Big Bite Baits, Sunline, and TH Marine. BTL coming at you. Good Thursday, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, how you doing on a Thursday?
I finally got out on the water yesterday while you were filming Mark Daniels Jr., I guess.
No, you didn't listen. Did you listen to it?
No. Not yet.
I was trying to get a hold of him to set up
Right.
shows, and I had the best of show
Right.
that I was going to do, and he's like, well, can you pre-record it?
Yeah.
Because the time thing didn't work out. So the night before, yesterday, I just pre-recorded the show.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant. That's why we had the Mark Daniels Jr. yesterday. It wasn't.
I didn't do it yesterday.
I know, but I was letting everyone know. I know you didn't do it yesterday, but it was because it was a recorded interview that ran yesterday morning when the show was.
But I didn't do it live yesterday.
I know.
That's not what you said.
Never mind. I knew what was up, Mark.
All right.
What was up
Anyway.
was we didn't do a live show
Because
yesterday.
I had a appointment yesterday, a follow-up.
Routine.
Yeah.
Everything went well.
Yeah, all good.
A crazy scene. Did you have to go to the hospital? Or the
No.
doctor's office?
Yeah, it's just...
Okay. Everything's normal.
Yeah.
But I actually got out on the water a little bit.
And?
I caught some crappie, and I realized, man, this thing has had more of a psychological toll on me than I realized. Because I figured, you get out on the water away, there's no one else on
Was
the
it
lake,
relaxing?
one other. Well, I thought it would be relaxing, but my mind kept racing the whole day while I was fishing, thinking about everything.
Because you were chasing 3-pound crappies.
No,
that's
it had
why.
nothing to do with it. Thinking about, what's going on with society and the coronavirus and all that, I wasn't able to get my mind off of it. I didn't realize how much it dominated my thought until I was out there on the water by myself doing my thing,
Yeah.
and I kept thinking about it. And the phone would go off, and I would be like, is this a shelter-in-place warning?
geez.
Is this something? I didn't realize. Okay, if you followed the show for a while or know me, I'm a little bit of a worrier. Like, I get to places early, not because I want to make sure that I'm on time, but because I'm worried that I won't be able to find a parking place, or that the traffic will be hectic, or that I get lost
is true.
or something.
This
Like,
is
I'm a
true.
little... I have
Paranoid. You're very paranoid.
I wouldn't
when
say
it comes-
paranoid. I would say I have some quirks that I'm aware of. And anxiety is one of them.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that I'd had quite a bit of
So was
anxiety
it
over this.
relaxing? I mean,
it was. It was good
sounds
to
like
get
it
out.
was stressful.
It was relaxing, but the stressful thing was that I realized that I was stressed out.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, the great scheme of things, I could handle it, and hopefully as Americans and people in the world, we can all handle it. But I just thought it was interesting that was like kind of the first time, that I'd been on the water alone since all this had gone down across the world and across the United States, and it still dominated my thought process. Like, I thought I'd get out there and it'd just be a normal day on the water, but it felt different.
I agree with that. I mean, it was interesting yesterday. After I went to Arbuckle.
You did.
Yeah, because I wanted to check things out and just really kind of see what was going on. Heck, I didn't even know if the ramp was going to be
I
open.
heard some reports from Arbuckle that the ramp definitely was open.
It was jam-packed. I mean, it was completely jammed. There were so many people on there. You could not go into a pocket without seeing a boat.
Did you catch any?
I did not.
Did you see any?
I did not, because it's about 6 inches visibility. Can't see anything. I went all over the lake looking, trying to find one. I did catch one 3-pounder doing something that you will be proud of me that I did this, Matthew.
Let me see. Spinnerbait?
No.
Buzzbait?
It's something I've never done it before.
Something you've never done? Square bill?
No.
Swim jig.
No, I'll give you a hint, okay?
Technique-wise.
The lake has a scum on the bottom right now.
A scum on the bottom.
Green scum. So you can't throw a Carolina rig, right? And you can't throw a football jig because it just comes back a mess. So what do you think I came up with? Because the one fish I actually caught in 15 feet of water.
15 foot, a deep dive and plug?
No.
I met a wacky worm?
No, you tell me if you've ever done this, all right? I'm calling it a shot rig.
A shot rig.
It is an inverted Carolina rig set up like a drop shot, except you don't fish it vertically. You fish it like a Carolina rig.
So you caught it on a drop shot?
I caught it on a drop shot.
They call that Bubba shotting, Mark. That's the official term for it is Bubba shot.
Okay,
that's 15-pound test?
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
You were Bubba shotting.
With a 3/4 ounce drop shot weight.
Yeah. Casting it out, dragging it back like a Carolina rig, but...
Because there was so much scum on the bottom that there's no way you could throw a Carolina rig.
You were Bubba shotting.
That's what I did.
First fish ever on a Bubba shot?
First fish.
First fish ever on a drop shot?
No,
you caught him up north before.
Yeah, no.
So why did you go? Oh, because you wanted the bigger bait because it was the muddier water.
Because everybody was beating up the bank, and I thought, okay, I got to do something different. And the other thing was I was trying to find some of the grass because I wanted to see
hydrilla?
If that grass was coming back, and I found some, and I was fishing a little grass line with the Bubba shot. I didn't know that is what it was called.
That's awesome.
And it was pretty cool.
Now, were you able to relax and get your mind off things, or did you too find your mind racing a little bit?
I had conversations with multiple people on the lake yesterday.
Like from your boat?
Yeah.
Like just kind of idled up?
Well, you're cruising in these pockets, to try and see, and everybody was really nice to each other. Hey, you enjoying the day? Yeah, it's great to be on the water. The vibe that I got on the boat ramp, once I got back in, everybody was just so happy just to be out there and try and take their mind off some stuff. Interesting, folks, they have a touch kiosk to get your permit or to pay your launch fees and everything. Waived.
Yeah.
Big sign on it. Didn't want anybody touching the
Same
sign.
thing at Ulaga. There's a big deal on the... I went to Ulaga yesterday, and lake was like 11 and a half feet high, and it was like raising a foot every hour, and I was like, nah, I'm not feeling it. So, but they had a sign that said, hey, free launching until further notice.
I did talk to one guy, caught a 7.5 pounder. He pulled it out of the live well and showed it to me.
Wow.
I saw a few cruisers, but they have definitely moved up. The other thing is it's high. It's about 3 feet high. It's up in the bushes. So
did you throw a blade around the bushes at all? Nothing.
Nothing.
You think it got...
I think it came up really quick, but it has a very, very interesting tint to it that I haven't seen for a long time. It's not muddy, but it's definitely not clear. It's kind of a greenish brown. Just really, really weird. So
as if it wasn't obvious that this was going to happen, Bass officially announced that the Elite Series event on Lake Eufaula has been postponed. That was originally scheduled for April 2nd through 5th. And in the article, it just says, in keeping with the advice of both medical professionals and federal officials to limit gatherings to reduce the spread of the coronavirus, angler sponsor staff and local hosts were informed of this decision on Monday afternoon.
Yeah.
So there's another Elite Series that has been postponed, which I think we knew obviously was going to happen.
Yeah. Somebody else called it a power shot. You ever heard that?
Yeah,
term?
Power shot too. It's interesting if you look at the Bassmaster website. It says Bassmaster Elite Series at Lake Eufaula postponed, and it appears as though like the photo that they used is one of those old pro styles. Yeah. And it's got like one of those one of the silver, I think it's that old Mercury.
Oh,
yeah. The carbureted, the silver with the box on the back. It's a cool photo.
Silver with the box on the back.
I don't know. Look at the photo on it.
I'll pull it up here.
It might have said Mariner on it.
Well, that used to be a Mercury byproduct.
I think that's got to be a photo from a Bass Nation event. Obviously not an Elite Series.
Not a whole lot of Mariners around anymore.
So that was the first time you'd been out this year.
First time.
Feel good?
Yeah. It was, it was weird? My hands kept cramping up. I would think because of all the bowling and stuff.
They'd be.
Yeah, but I had to stop and sit down and have some almonds for a little bit.
Well, I had
drink some water.
I had an issue too. I've got I'm calling it like electronic neck.
Fire neck, man.
It's the first time out, and I'm really good about wearing the AFCO stuff with the hood and stuff, but it was kind of chilly, a little bit overcast yesterday, foggy.
Super nice.
Didn't think anything of it. So you get out, and then all of a sudden it's the first time of the year where you're looking down at your electronics trying to catch these crappie for 8 hours, and the sun's just beating down on your neck. I take the term redneck to a new level right now.
It's pretty red.
Like, they think the Tiger King cast are the biggest rednecks in Oklahoma, like right now.
Yeah.
My neck's pretty red.
It is pretty red,
so
dude.
Once that's done,
sunscreen,
I'm
buff,
back,
whatever
to
you want.
Back to the samurai after this.
All right. Well, take care of your skin, dude. By the way, did you see Tiger King #1 viewed show on Netflix?
I could not have come out at a worse or better time, I guess.
Yeah.
Everyone's sitting at home looking for stuff to do. So.
Yeah. All right, folks. Good show today. Really excited to have Rick Pierce on. What?
I want to go here real quick before we get Rick Pierce on. Could you have a Tiger King style documentary with everything that's gone on in the bass fishing world and who would play what characters? Because you've got eccentric people, you've got takeovers, you've got splits, you've got people who are friends who are now divided, you've got people who are very passionate about something that no one else knows exists.
Yeah, but you have some situations in the Tiger King that did not happen in the bass fishing world. I agree,
but I'm just saying, we used to do that with the Deadliest Catch show, where we gave it.
No, I think you're going down a path that there is no comparison there, dude. None whatsoever. Okay. In case you haven't seen it, absolutely no comparison with that example. That's really, really, really bad. Anyway, Rick Pierce, the president of Bass Cat Boats, is going to be on here in about 5 minutes and kind of get his take, hopefully get some tremendous stories from Rick. Rick has been in this business and been around fishing for 40, 50 years. Him and his dad. I mean, there's not too many people in this nation that have the history and the background in the fishing world like Rick Pierce. So always a good time. Now, I do want to make the announcement. Got some shows booked, Matthew. And I said this when I did the Mark Daniels Jr. show that I was going to announce today. Let me go through what the schedule is for the remainder, probably the next 7, 8 days, 6, 7, 8 days, something like that. All right, tomorrow we're going to have David Fritz on. Monday, Elite Series Luke Palmer is going to be here in studio. Tuesday, the 31st, Carl Jacobson on live via Skype. Wednesday, April Fool's Day. No fooling here. Chris Zaldane is going to drive up from DFW, be in studio on Wednesday. On Thursday, April 2nd, the initials, Kevin Van Dam, is going to be on live via Skype. On April 3rd, Friday, Gerald Swindle is going to be on live via Skype. Then on Monday, we're going to find out what's going on the West Coast. We're going to have Jared Littner on live via Skype. So many aspects to go down on what's going on the West Coast. So we're going to have Jared on. And then tentatively, I have not gotten confirmation. On Tuesday, April 7th, we will have Dean Rojas on. So pretty jam-packed schedule over the next couple of weeks. And I know everybody out there can't wait to have KVD on there so I can ask him why he kept throwing a jerkbait. So
I heard he's not very happy with it.
Yeah, well, he's coming on the show, and he was very polite about it, too.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens. So that's kind of the schedule, a jam-packed schedule right here on BTL, and I will continue to get people booked on the show. Now, an interesting thing happened yesterday also. It was confirmed that April 6th, I'm going to have to go back to school. But the students are not going to be there. So I'm actually going to teach my classes virtually for the remainder of the semester.
Well, I would think if there's anybody who is adept at handling that will not be a big transition for you.
No, I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. So the biggest challenge right now is whether or not the students have access to the bandwidth, to the computers.
So they're going to like log in and watch you live?
Yeah.
Are they going to be, you going to be able to see them?
No. It's just I stand in front of the whiteboard and instruct. And I'm only going to do that for my finance economics class because I can't really do it with the media class.
Right.
So the media assignment is going to be, I don't know, watch a documentary and write a one-page report or something like that. Just kind of get feedback. But it's a big challenge. I'm kind of excited about it to hopefully try and take care of these kids. And then the other thing that I hope kids don't miss out on, they're already missing out on a ton, but graduation. Mm-hmm. The plan right now is we're going to put a plan in place to go ahead and plan on graduation a little bit later in May, and actually may have them walk through one by one outdoors in the football field.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the district and the superintendent and all the administration trying to do everything they can to try and make sure that these kids graduate.
Now, what's the deal with the kiddo getting hitched?
That is probably getting rescheduled to July 17th.
Do I still have to RSVP by April 1st?
Yes.
Okay, I need to get that in. I got to admit,
Yeah.
I would have an idea that you had absolutely nothing to do with the invitations to your oldest son's
No, I
wedding.
had zero. Nothing.
Like 3 pieces of paper, all distressed, like kind of ripped around the edges, but in like the classy, intentional way.
Hey, that's
kind of like the frayed jeans style back in the day.
I'm going to get the tux or whatever we're wearing, and that's about it.
I show it to the girlfriend, and I say, hey, here's the invitation to Mark's Junior's wedding. She looks at it. She goes, this may be too fancy for us. Just based on the invitations, it comes in like calligraphy and stuff.
Just wait till you see the family. Okay, her family, the entire church would be filled on that side.
Yeah.
Our family, a smattering of people.
How many other fishing people got invited?
There's a few.
I mean, it's just basically, we're
close friends and family.
All right.
That's about it.
All right, well, I'll make sure to get that RSVP in then.
I think July 17th.
I'll give you more time to work on your speech.
Dude,
that you're claiming that you're not ever going to have to give.
I'll just roll with it.
I've heard you give some impromptu speeches, and they're pretty impressive.
Yeah. All right, everybody, coming back with Rick Pierce here on a Thursday. Everybody, stay tuned.
The ultimate fishing system starts with Lowrance HDS Live. Upgrade to HDS Live with a Ghost trolling motor, live sight transducer, or Structure Scan 3D, and get up to $500 cash back.
Yeah, you care about gear ratios, inches per turn, and ball bearings, but most importantly, you want reliability and dependability in the equipment you use. Lew's doesn't cut corners when it comes to the gear they build. The new Speed Spool LFS is the best $99 reel in the market. Go see for yourself.
We've paired one of the most iconic hulls in the history of bass boats with a proven lineup of trusted accessories. We're bringing you best-in-class value and performance, leaving others in your wake. Turnkey value, turnkey performance. The Pantera 2 is an overachiever in the 19-foot category. Once you hit the throttle, you'll feel the rush, and there's no looking back.
Kevin, what are you doing here?
Oh, I'm just filling in for Billy.
I need 660 shad crankbaits in the Series 5 model.
We're out.
You're not out. You got all kinds of them right there.
We're out.
Kevin, I need 6.
Have a lollipop.
I do not want a lollipop.
Have a lollipop.
Do you have it in sexy shad color?
At Duckett Fishing, we have assembled the top pros in the country to help us design rods to give you a competitive advantage. Castability, strength, durability, action, sensitivity, weight and balance, and consistency. Combine that with the best warranty in the industry, and you have rods that are pro-driven.
Duckett Fishing, pro-driven.
I want to share with you a new product we got coming out from Sunline. This is the FC leader size spools that we have now. We've gotten a lot of requests for this. A lot of you guys use fluorocarbon for leaders only, myself included. And one of the problems you have is when you have a 200-yard spool, that might last you 2, 3, 4 years. You might even lose it before you even get done with the spool. So we've gone to a little smaller spool. These are 50-yard spool sizes. You know, that way you're not holding your line on forever. You can keep your line fresh, use it when you can. Stores real easily in the boat. We got all of our popular line sizes that you're used to with our Sniper from 5 to 14 pound. If you guys are looking for a line that you're only tying for a leader, go check out Sunline FC Leader 100% fluorocarbon and give it a try.
All right, we are back. Excuse me. Jeez. All right, we are still trying to get a hold of Rick Pierce, and I will continue to do that. You never said how many you caught yesterday, man.
I probably had like 25.
What was your biggest one?
256.
Nice.
You let everything over 2 go. And then you keep everything under 2 and eat.
So the hunt was on.
Yes. The hunt was on.
How long did it take you to catch your biggest fish?
It was my second drop of the day.
That easy?
Yeah. I'm still convinced that crappie fishing helps you with bass fishing. I know I posted a picture of a bottle of kokanee and a crappie pulling it out of the live well, and everyone said, "Oh, you're ruined. You're back on the crappie bandwagon." But I think it's like a multi-sport. You know, everyone who's really good at the one sport, most of them played multiple sports growing up. I think it's a different skill set. We gotta get Steve Kennedy. I want to get Steve Kennedy on to talk about the benefits of fishing for multi-species, because I feel like he would back me up on this.
Probably so.
Because he learned how to fish current and all that stuff. You know, trout, salmon, steelhead, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Finesse fishing, crappie stuff, all that. Wise.
Man, still no answer. I'm gonna do
He's
this.
probably a very busy man.
No, I'm texting. We're texting back and forth, so I don't know if there's an issue with his phone system or what's going on. Can you tell the people what you're catching these fish on?
Yeah.
Or is it a secret?
No, it's there's two things I've catched it on. One of them is just a small hair jig, and then the other is just a Big Bite Baits has a little 2 or 2 1/4 inch, basically just a little straight tail piece of plastic, and then these arrow shaped crappie jig heads that have a metal barb keeper on the back, and it's basically just a small crappie jig. Then I put a little bit of weight, a little split shot above the about 1.5 foot above the jig, because it's I think a 1/16 ounce jig, and then that allows, when you're dropping it, it shows up on your sonar better. When you're dropping it straight down, you can see, because you can tell you've got 2 little dots that are in line with each other, so that's how you can see. It's basically when you're talking about the drop shot, you can see your bait and then the weight below it, when you're dropping it down.
Yeah.
Same concept as that, except you have the weight above the jig head, and that allows you to be able to differentiate it amongst the shad and bait fish that are down there.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, I texted Rick. We'll see if we can get him hooked up here in a minute. Is there another event scheduled on the Elite Series?
Yeah, I was looking at that schedule, and it is April 16th through 19th on Santee Cooper, which is, they postponed the Open on the 9th through 11th on the Louisville. So that's the week after
Probably
that.
not going to happen.
Who knows?
We'll see.
What's
All right.
gonna happen there.
I think we have Rick. Rick, you there, man?
Man, I'm here. What an effort.
Sorry about that. I don't know what was going on. It just rang and rang and rang, and it is what it
Modern
is.
technology, man.
Yeah, but so glad that we're able to hook up and get you on the show here for a little bit. And Rick, I want to start off, and obviously there's a lot of stuff on everybody's minds, and you have been through a lot from an economic standpoint, from a recession standpoint. just initially being one of the people at the forefront of the industry, what are your thoughts on what we are going through right now?
Well, we really don't know what we're into right now, Mark. So the game is a changing game. I've been through with everything since the Arab embargo and Yom Kippur War in the 70s. You know that. We've talked about it once in a while off and on.
Yeah.
I think it's I think we're going to come out of this just fine as a country, and I think we're going to come out of this just fine as an industry. What I'm really energized about is the number of people fishing. A buddy of mine yesterday, and he's retired at Lake Fork. Mark called me, and he just wants everybody to go home. Because everybody's on the water where they can get on the water, and that's a good thing. But from an industry standpoint, jobs numbers are out at 3.2 million this morning, and that's probably going to just get worse next week because there's so much going on. People don't have anything to do, so you can't blame business, you can't blame people. It's just the way it is. And will we rebound from this? Yes. Will it be better? Yeah, it's going to be better. We're always going to be better. It's going to improve. We're going to get smarter. And I think that every time we see a downturn, the one thing I'm pretty energized about this particular downturn from our sports standpoint is I think we're going to see some growth. It's given a lot of fisheries a little bit of a break. I think we're going to see some growth. People are going to catching fish for fun instead of catching them for competition. I think it's going to change the platform a little bit. We'll get back to competition. Things will change, but those are two things that you're asking. Now, will the stock market go down? Sure, it's going to go down. Well, what everybody forgets about the stock market, Mark, and I loved Sam Walton back in 2000 era when it went down, and he told me it was just paper. He still has everything he had before. But you look at where it's at today and what's going on today. For every dollar that comes out of the market, somebody put it in their pocket. So there's a lot of money being made right now. There's a lot of trades being made right now. The money's not all gone. It's just in some other hole. And so figuring out where that's at and how this economy comes back, when they put it back in the market, it's all going to come back together in time. The market's been wanting a bubble. The stock market and certainly the corporations have been wanting a bubble. They've been wanting a little bit of a correction. They were looking for a 10-12% correction. This is going to be a little more than that, but it's probably going to set it in better shape going forwards.
What is the operations like for you right now in Mountain Home?
We're in good shape. We're very fortunate. South Missouri, North Arkansas, we got a COVID case at Taney County. They've got a COVID case down at Mountain View out of one of the little aluminum boat companies down there. A guy apparently got out of town, got a little COVID. But right here in Mountain Home, we're at status quo. They've got one over at Harrison. We're still operating. We did, because of consumer demand, shut down the production of part of our facility and reapplied those people over to get some backlog we had out because people were nervous we weren't going to be able to make the deliveries. And so first it's dealers calling you, then it's customers calling you, where's my boat? I can't go fishing. So we're dealing with that right now, and we're trying to make all the deliveries we can this month to get people product, because that's certainly been an unanticipated outcome of what's happened is guys are worried they're not going to get their boats. We have a gentleman, and his dad was a friend of mine, and he ran a boat for many years, and his son wound up, and he's about my age, your age. He wound up running a boat, and he's fishing, and the other day he sold his boat, and rather than waiting on us building one, he went ahead and just went into the dealer and bought one because he doesn't want to wait. He's in his 60s. He wants to go fishing. He wants to go fishing now. He doesn't want to wait on a boat. As he looked at me, he said, man, I got 10 more years to fish where I want to, and I'm going to enjoy every day of it. So we've got a lot of different attitudes coming out of this, and as a company, Yarcraft, we're continuing to flow with Yarcraft. That's really going well as far as Yarcraft is going. Of course, we've gotten some pretty strong accolades with Yarcraft with a most innovative fiberglass fishing boat for 2020 at NMA. So that 219 Yarcraft certainly getting some traffic and doing a good job for us. And that's our walleye line. That's something bass guys don't know about. But but it's not a big market. I mean, the walleye market's just 1,000 pieces, a little over the whole market. So it's not huge, but we're still strong in there with that 219, and it's done well for us. So we kept that running. Those guys haven't started fishing yet. They're waiting on the ice to clear, and they're nervous. We've got Wisconsin on mandatory shutdown for 2 weeks, so we can't deliver up there. So we do have some delivery challenges, not only with Yarcraft, but also with Bass Cat. And we've got some guys out all the way into Maine at Portland Yacht, and they're wanting product. And Portland Yacht's kind of hard to get to because you got to go through Pennsylvania and go through New York. We're going to cut up through Virginia and get there. I think we can probably drive right through the middle of New York without a traffic jam today, so that's probably good.
Wow.
But you know, it's the environment's just a lot different. But as far as operations in Mountain Home, we haven't had no staff reductions at this time. There have been staff reductions in the industry, but not here. We have had, I think we've got 7 or 8 on a voluntary furlough because they could take time off and they needed to get some projects done. 1 or 2 of them have some family that's not in good health, and they didn't want to take a virus home to their family. It was fear. Some of it just caution. We've got 1 or 2 that have just decided they would change their career path. One moved out of state. So from an operation standpoint inside the facility, other staff is on hand. I'm sure we'll eventually go through a staff reduction, and we did have a meeting with staff Monday that would say that, but we don't know where we're going to come out of this at. Actually, orders this week have kept up pace with what our normal production would have been.
Nice.
So I can't say it's bad. To date, as far as product losses in sales, we have lost 1 unit sale since the COVID situation came out that we're aware of that has been canceled. So we really haven't seen the bump that you're talking about economically. Our bump is probably self-inflicted because of the pressure we're getting to get the product out. So we're trying to get there.
Yeah, as Mark and I both went out on the water yesterday, and based on what I've seen on social media and some of the places I passed there, I passed Lake Eufaula, and I saw so many guys on the boats with their kids and stuff. And then you look at it, I mean, I have not seen more fathers taking their sons and daughters fishing and whole families fishing on the boat. So it's kind of cool that in a time like this, you have a lot of family bonding going on boats that wouldn't otherwise happen or not happen as often because these guys would be getting ready for tournaments or practicing or be out of town. So from the professional level all the way down to the local BFL team tournament guys, it seems like there's a lot more kids that are going to get to catch a few bass this spring, which is it's got to always be good to see families in boats.
Yeah, there's a little bit of conflict going on in places because you can't get to all the waterways. So the problem is where we've had some people that haven't acted responsibly. There's no doubt, Matt, there's some challenges. Miami down there, they closed the beaches down, and last weekend I think they had 100 and some boats lined up tied rail to rail down there on the beach after they closed them, and they came out of the harbors, so eventually they had to close the harbors down. So we left them. We just barely got. Of course, we got to be thankful. We got to be thankful that we got a classic in, because the Bassmasters Classic was literally the last weekend that we could have held this. So no doubt about it. It definitely, as far as the Classic's concerned, we couldn't have done that at another time. And then when we look at the situation with the owners tournament we had, we squeezed it in at the absolute next weekend. So when you look at that, we're just fortunate that we got a lot of things behind us, and now guys can kind of focus on going fishing and doing what they want to do.
Rick, let's talk about the Classic with the situation that Bass in the Elite Series is dealing with right now. Matt and I had the conversation that we could potentially see maybe a carryover into next year if for some reason they can't get anything in until June or July. What are your thoughts about moving the Classic around, and is this a possibility, and would it be good for the industry if it wasn't toward the spring of the year?
Well, when we did the Classic, at that time, Mark, we were one of the sponsors of Bassmaster at that time, that first year when Helen and Ken Woodard and Shad and Hunter Cole, a whole bunch of them, we got in that deal with them. And we kind of, first time there had been a non-brand of one brand boat company, we'll leave that one alone. But we did that, that story. The Classic moved because of one thing. It was after football, before Daytona. And so that gave us the ability with ESPN ownership to have a major media sports center. And at the time, ESPN felt like they could make every top 100, every elite event, which became the elite event. And they thought they could make every one almost a Bassmaster Classic. They were looking to grandstand them all. And we all know that probably wasn't realistic. So the move was, one, to get on a good weekend where we get live television coverage on ESPN, and they did that. ESPN performed that for about 2 years, and then they started backing out. So at this time, when you look at your question, the question is, how do we feel about moving it? I thought that August was a good time, but now today schools have kind of started in August, so you don't have that family thing anymore. I'm a proponent for don't go to school till September 1 and let them out at the end of May. Give them 3 months of summer. But today, schools will end sometimes into June, and they'll start again like second, third week, maybe even first week of August sometimes. And I think we squeezed that summer that we all had as kids into such a short period of time. Kids don't have a summer anymore. So we're all looking at education, but we're going to have a spring break, we're going to have a fall break, we're going to give them 7 snow days or whatever it is, and then we're going to take 2 weeks off at Christmas. So they're stretching those off times during the year. And I think it's difficult to get that family environment there that we once had as a Classic the way it is right now. We're not seeing Casting Kids what it was. We're not seeing, and we're talking about how much we want to be a youth-oriented society in our sport. So I think we really need to look at the family aspect of it. And so my view is if we can move that even into June, Mark, let's look at it a whole different way. Let's start in fall and end in June. And that could be the kickoff to our summer. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
I like it. I like it a lot. I really do. And I think you hit on some main points. But now let's take a look at the remainder of this season, Rick. They may not get another event in until June. What do you do this year?
Well, this year you just salvage. They've got to jam them. They're probably going to have to look at sites. Of course, Bassmaster's got the difficulty of activation, and activation means on-site activation, where you go to basically having these big events on site, wanting a crowd, needing the media. And Bassmaster's view and Major League Fishing's view are two different ones, of course, being FLW what FLW is now. But no doubt, Bass Pro Tour and what they got with Sports Illustrated, and I think they've had a little glitch in their get-along on that. But basically, the Bass Pro Tour is in a prime position to gain some market share as far as viewing. But I think to get the season in, Bassmaster's going to have to really look at whether or not they need to activate, and that's going to be Chase and Bruce and everybody up there. And they're sharp guys. They'll figure it out. Nobody will agree with the decision they make anyway. So they got to do the best they can. And they're in a tough position. How do you get the season in at Bassmaster? Because now, sponsors want activation. They may not be able to get activation. They want fan base. They may not be able to get fan base. They got to really view the way they do things, and I think Bass has got a difficult road getting their year in. I'm sure that this next Classic will be on the same platform. I'm sure it'll be the same time of the year, so they got a lot of time to do that. Some of these guys are going to have to decide whether they want to deer hunt or fish, and I think they'll figure out quick that the deer hunting may not put food on the table. So they'll have some decisions to make. They'll be upset that they can't do what they'd love to do in the fall, and I understand this. These are trying times, and Bass has to adjust, as I said, to where they can do the best they can between the anglers, the sponsors, the fan base, and everything.
There's a lot of bass cat owners that fish team tournaments, local tournament trails. I know we've got a lot of big ones. You have a lot in Arkansas as well. How do you see the kind of local, regional tournament trails getting through this that depend on entry fees and tournaments to survive? Do you see them coming out the other end of this okay when we're all back on the water fishing these things?
From a standpoint of no, I mean, we're all going to go through financial times one way or another, Matt. You can buy right now. You can buy $1.49 gas in Mountain Home, Arkansas, if you want to. I think $1.47 at a pay pump. So this is great from one side. From another side, the guys are not going to have the $1.47 to put in the pump to some degree, so that's going to challenge it because you got all these. The working class carries our economy, and I've said that long ago. I don't feel like, and this is where the topic is, Matt. So the 2007 economy was not taken down by banks. It was not taken down by AIG and all of the Smith Barneys and all that. It was taken down by the guy buying tires for his truck because it came into 2007, 8, 9, 10. Losing the funding to be able to take that truck at $4 gasoline and move it to basically being able to drive a Toyota. They couldn't sell their truck. So a lot of the working class that we have, mid-grade working class that fishes team tournaments, is going to suffer through this. So the biggest challenge none of us know is how much that impacts some of those regional tournaments like a Fisher's of Men, a AC Tournament Trail, any of those little ones that are out there. Bass Champ's being a different deal. It's kind of a mid-level team trail, really top-level team trail, and it's owned in Texas with Skeeter sponsorship. And they've done a real good job. Those guys, Potts, they've done a good job. So certainly, there's going to be some that are resilient and weather it, and then there's going to be some top-end ones that guys are going to have to make some decisions. And the tournament business has never been a tremendously profitable business for anybody running them. I don't care if you go back to Johnny, and everybody knows Johnny was a friend of mine, or is a friend of mine, Johnny Davis, and Angler's Choice years ago. And Johnny tried to give the anglers everything he could, but at the end of it, he didn't keep enough for Johnny. And so I think that's a tough thing for a tournament director because it costs so much money to run them that there are going to be some tournament directors in a tight pinch. From our sponsorship side, changing that game, Angler's Choice, which is now AC Tournaments that Rick runs, they postponed their classic, and we have all the boats built and paid for just for those guys to know, man, they're secure. And boats are paid for, they're sitting here. But we had to postpone the championship. And so, definitely we give them some boats and they pay for some of them, but the motors and everything are sitting here. So those guys have survived that. And those sponsorships are taken care of. So we've got all of their boats built, ready to go. And we're waiting on that AC Tournament Trail to start. From Fisher Men, they just squeaked one in the same weekend we did in the middle of March. So they've knocked their championship out. Now the problem is going into next year. So you look at what's happening out west, and both of you know we're putting a big drive on out west with the Wild West Bass Trail and One Bass. And the West really has 3 events out there. And by the way, congratulations to Ty Al on a win out there with FLW, because that's the 3rd one out on the West Coast. It's a major deal, and that's FLW. I think they had 75 boats or 80 boats at Havasu, and he won one out there. So good congratulations to Ty Al. But no doubt the West Coast has changed the platform. Now, they have released, as of recently, the One Bass California Open to go back. So that's rescheduled. I think everybody out there is going to get everything in, but I think in the middle part of the country, the small circuits, it's going to be hard on these small guys.
All right. Rick, I know you know a lot of history about the game and obviously about the boat building business. I saw something yesterday that I wanted to pick your brain and see if you could give me maybe some insight on it. I saw one of those old Ranger inboard bass boats. What year did those things come out, and how long did they last? Do you know?
Oh, man, they didn't last. Well, Ranger, that was kind of one of those things. Of course, Ranger, that started with Rebel.
Really?
Rebel actually did the first inboards if you go back and look at it. And so, and you can go all the way back to Rebel. And then after Rebel did that, everybody thought that engine platform, everybody was trying to reduce the cost on the engine platform always, because outboard engines are very low. The whole outboard engine market is basically the size of the Ford truck market a month. So in the USA, everything. And so it's not much bigger than one F-Series truck market in a month.
Wow.
So what everyone has done, Mark, and everyone wants to know why outboard motors cost so much, and that's something we've always faced. So what everyone's always tried to do is to come up with a platform. I mean, we even worked with the guys that were building a Wankel engine one time, trying to get them to go, and they were building them for drones. A lot of the drones at the time were flown with Wankel engines, and they were target drones. And so they would use those, and they thought they had a link to go in, and because the USA was shooting them all down, they had these motors they could get because of volume, and everyone's tried to do something in that line. But that goes back to the 60s, late 60s, and it extended itself well into, I think, probably early 90s. And I think back when Ranger was really big into trying to build a family boat, they probably built that bigger boat with an IO in it. And the problem is the weight of one of them, because, today outboards, as you know, we've cut the four strokes down to 500 plus pounds right there. And the weight of those engines winds up being so much with the outdrives and the mounting and all that. So it's a suffrage. And then you're sitting on top of a heater, and you use your boat when the weather's nice.
Yeah. It was in great shape. I was shocked. Guy had it out there running, looked good, ran good, fishing out of it, doing a little bobber fishing in it. It was pretty cool.
College against the team from Illinois. They ran an inboard Ranger. Steve, who's your boy? What's your dude from Rob Russo and Steve Mooey?
Yeah.
Used to fish out of an inboard Ranger. Now they got towed in a lot, but they fished out of an inboard Ranger.
Wow.
Well, so they were not bad platforms as far as the actual operation of the engine. I don't know why they got towed in. I'm sure it didn't get run every day or something.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Ray. It's kind of an off-the-wall question, but so you guys do a lot of, you come out with a lot of different designs at Bass Cat and stuff. Have you guys ever sat down and done a concept boat, a future boat that just is completely different? I mean, you see it in vehicles and stuff at all, all the car shows, the next gen futuristic Jetson looking stuff. I mean, does that exist in you guys who are building and creating these boats?
There are people that have done that in the boat world to try to follow what they do to bring out a concept car type thing, Matt. But the boat industry doesn't have the margins and the profits that the car guys have got, and we don't have the staff. So we try to keep all things focused. So when we do something innovative like that from a company standpoint, it's something like we did with the Era, and the Era has kind of been our launch platform to something new. And there will probably be another Era come out someday. That'll be a launch platform to something new. In 94, the Era was the first round-back boat, and you can go back and look at, and of course, Matt, this goes beyond you because this goes back to 1987 when we brought out the 88 Pantera 2 and Sabre. That's a little beyond you, or close enough.
I was 3.
But,
I was 3.
Like I said.
Yeah.
But we brought those out at a time, and I'll never forget, my dad was so scared, and at the time Joe Light owned Marine Electrical Products, and he'd moved up to Lebanon, Missouri, and Joe came in here to do the dashboards, and Joe was a good friend of mine, and he got over there talking to Dad, and I had redesigned all these boats, and I'd put 52 gallons of gas in the P2 and 46 in the Sabre, and I had step-on trim buttons and standard 1240s and in lights in the boxes and standard jack plate and twin bilge pumps and twin aerators and things nobody'd ever done in the business, elevated decks. I mean, it was, at the time, when you go into and this is a great one to explain, because going into the 90-91 recession, when the market went down about 35%, it was more boats than I've ever built in my life when the market was flat. And that's because of the popularity of those two models. So anytime we do that, we get into concepts. But what I was going to say about Joe is Dad talked to him. Dad was so scared that I was making this big mistake. And we carried that into the 90 era, and it's kind of launched the Pantera 2 into the platform it's become to continue to be a chosen platform. And when you do that, you can't afford to do that like a concept boat because, we've been in this for decades, and literally, you got Falcon that's come in new, and those guys were all B guys from the Bumblebee family, and you've got Lexus that's here new, and they're all out of the Ranger brand, and Randy and Keith and those guys, and then you've got the guys with Klaus and the guys at Phoenix, and they bought the B-line molds to get started. So you got two new players that have never seen anything like we've seen as a company. And what's happened in this business, when you go back to look in the mid-'80s, Matt, this company had about almost 70 competitors. So today we've got a handful. And so nobody in the bass boat business can really truly afford to come out with a concept like that and make it launch. You almost have to try your concepts in manufacturing and hope you get them right.
Huh. Now, I have one more design question then, and I just want to kind of put this rumor to rest or either confirm it, but I do believe that my Puma had something like 11 or 12 cup holders, and I think my Lynx has like 9 or 10 cup holders in it, like everywhere you work, and I've been told that the reason is that Rick likes to be able to put your Yeti in a cup holder wherever you are in the boat, whether you're working on tackle up at the front, the back, or fishing out of the back. Is that the reason for all the cup holders?
That's a really good one, and I wish I could place them in the right areas. You never can because of the trying to work around the design of the boat itself and what you need in areas. And here's a true story on cup holders, Matt. If you're going to buy an SUV, do you know why the cup holders are important?
I've been told because that's what the wife likes.
100% spousal purchase.
Yeah.
Wow.
Number one thing in a car for a woman is cup holders.
Wow. Did not know that.
That is a number one decision a woman makes a purchase on a car is where she's going to put her cup.
Wow.
So the cup holders is what pushes it over the edge then? And the gel cup.
Your wife gets them where she wants them.
there is. Anywhere you go in the bass cat, it's noticeable. You get in someone else's boat and you don't really know where to put your stuff. Like, you can't put any in any of mine right now because they're all filled with lures. But
hey, man, you really want to know what those are, man?
Yeah.
They're crankbait trays.
It's what I got. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people out there, they may or may not realize, but you are involved in just about every single aspect from a design standpoint through the history of your company, Rick. And I want to know, what is the one distinctive thing that when you were designing it, you sat back and you went, man, that's pretty cool. That is cool. What is one thing that comes to mind?
Well, there's been a lot of them, but the one thing, if I were going to say one thing, was when we knocked two boats at the time, and the two boats we worked on were the 2010 Jag and the following Era. But the Era, when we got the Era knocked out, which is the same model we basically build today, and we've rebuilt some molds. We probably need to rebuild some molds on that right now because it's had such a good lifespan and people still desire it, and it's my chosen boat. So when you look at it, the Era at the time was the Boat of the Year by Trader Boats Magazine, and it was Boat of the Year, Design Boat of the Year in the industry. And I think when I look back at the thing that really changed the concepts was the Era. And I'll never forget when Carrie Short first drafted one, she said, why did you put all these lines on this boat? It's hard for a wrapper to get all the wrap in all the corners and stuff. And the Era's actually got that little cowling on the side, and that's kind of cool, but it's like an air scoop, and it's actually the shape of a fish. Most people don't even realize that. So it's got a whole lot of little dress lines. All the stripes are concave, and from a design standpoint, from an actual hands-on graphic standpoint, it was the coolest product I think we ever built from that. Building coffin lids, and everybody told me, oh, those are, why did you do that? Now there's a couple of companies got coffin lids, and I really think that concept's probably one of the better concepts we've got. Everybody wants wide decks today, and they're great for a tournament, and the Era doesn't have a wide deck. We all use about 5 square foot to fish. That's what we stand on. So the Era really works well. It's a really good platform in and out of pockets. And so I look at the way the hull runs, what we tried to achieve with it, and the overall concept of everything, Mark, there's probably no doubt that is my favorite to this point. All the other ones, and nothing we got's cookie cutter, and everybody says, why not? Well, if I go into and I get a lot of that. There's 2 or 3 things about the brands you look at, and one of them is that none of ours are like a 207 or a model 196 or model 187. They're all, everybody uses a number to dictate the size of their boat. And, General Motors, you walk into Ford to buy a Mustang, you might buy a Mustang GT350, but you bought a Mustang. And they didn't sell you, oh, by the way, that's a 350. That's a 17 because that's a 17-foot long car. They sell you a name, a brand, a logo. So one thing that's different with our company that does give us a lot of complexity is that logo is a part of our brand. So the Pantera 2 becomes part of its own brand, its own name, and we keep that through. So it gives us a lot of confusion moving forward with that because of that. So we got a lot of 20-foot boats. And that's where that started in that conversation. And that's because I've got competitors that have got 3 brands in one store. When you look at White River Group, or look at what used to be with Stratus Javelin, or any of those companies that are doing line, they've got like 3 brands in one store. And you go in there, you can buy this Triton, this Nitro, or you can buy this Ranger boat. And they're all White River Group brands. And those floor plans are all similar, but they're all different boats. For us, we've got to meet a 20-foot market among 5 or 6 models because we compete with 5 brands. And so what we're trying to do is do that competition. So we change everything. So the Era is definitely the favorite to this point. Moving forward, man, there is nothing like throwing the throttle down on that 450R and that new Jag.
Jeez. 450.
I saw it at the...
Yeah, I saw it too. That's crazy. Hey, who has been, besides yourself, obviously, who is probably the best boat driver from an angling standpoint that you've been in the boat with?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, Cruz is pretty good. Kevin Short, really good. I loaned Kevin my boat one day, and I'll tell a story on Kevin. Kevin's really good, and I trust Kevin a lot. So I loaned Kevin my boat one day. We're doing a little work on his, and he needed something done. It was a power pole deal, and he needed to go somewhere, and I said, just take mine. So he did, and I get this text from him. I think he's at Dardanelle, and it says, never been 80 before.
Wow.
So Kevin's learned. He's done a really good job, and you come into our product and the capabilities, but I tell you who one of the best ones that's a sleeper is, and I'm glad to have him back with us. And we worked really hard at WCF, and I'm going to give a lot of credit to Mark Davis. Mark Davis can drive a boat as good as anybody in the field. Kevin can drive it. Cruz can drive it. I think there's a lot of them that can drive. You look at, I think Palnick can drive really good as far as a driver, but you got to have product that runs, and the guys that run, there's some of them. Andy Morgan's a good driver, no doubt. Andy's solid. So there's a lot of them that can maneuver a boat. There's a lot of them can't maneuver a boat, and it's really easy to get in trouble when them. The biggest leap we had in professional angling, I feel, was boat drivers, Britt Myers, for example, or any of those, when they went from a 225 to a 250. Because the threshold of power, the threshold of torque, the threshold of speed, and especially in our particular brand, we feel, and especially with the weight, because our boats aren't light, it was that period in about 2006, 7, 8, when the anglers went from a 225 to a 250. And I think that really had a lot of them that had a lot to learn. And that was a period that we're through now. That was 13 years ago, roughly. And there's no doubt they had to learn how to really handle boats because, anybody can run one up to certain speeds and handle it fine. But that last little bit of getting those final horsepower that the 250 gives you capable of being, it's beyond a lot of anglers, and there's no doubt. And it's a popular engine, number one engine probably out there today, but it's pushing the envelope on some people's ability. But there's another aspect of that. Mark, you don't even know how fast your truck runs.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
But every single angler tries to know how fast his boat runs.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Rick, are you okay on time?
Yeah, I'm good right now.
All right.
I blocked off plenty of time, so as long as y'all want to roll here, we'll go.
Okay, let's do this. Let's take a break, and then we're going to come back, and I want to get into some fishing stories with you from the past and a few years ago. So hold tight. We're going to take a break, come back with Rick Pierce of Bass Cat Boats. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Let's face it, fishing electronics are no longer an afterthought. They've become a necessity. And at the Bass Tank, our experts match you with the right electronics, provide professional installation, and educate you to help maximize your catching results while providing support along the way. Because let's be honest, it's about catching, not just fishing. And when you're ready for better results, join the Bass Tank team. Visit us today on Facebook or go to thebasstank.com.
Blue Water by TH Marine. Offering LED lighting solutions for your boat, trailer, truck, ATV, and so much more. Engineered and built to be rugged with waterproof and submersible options. Designed for easy installation, Blue Water is available in a variety of colors and styles. All backed by a limited lifetime warranty. Blue Water by TH Marine.
The name SPRO says it all. SPRO stands for Sports Professionals. When you look at the pro staff that SPRO has brought on board over the past 15 years, it's been pretty incredible. I mean, one got it just then. From the development of the rock crawler to the McStick, from the Fat Popper to the Little John series, when you tie a SPRO bait on, you know it's been designed by a professional to get the job done. While I travel the country on the Bassmaster Elite Series, I simply can't let the weather be the reason I don't win $100,000. That's why I use AFCO clothing to keep me warm, dry, and protected from whatever Mother Nature wants to throw at me. My season depends on it. My career depends on it. AFCO, any fish, any water.
All of us on the Pro Tournament Trail use Gamakatsu hooks.
Why?
Because they are absolutely the best.
It's not about how many bites you get.
It's how many you put in the boat.
Gamakatsu makes hooks for every fishing style.
We didn't come this far to lose fish.
Did you?
For more information, visit gamakatsu.com.
The Big Bite Baits Kamikaze Swim-On is a very unique bait, and it's got a full body but with ribs to give it a bigger profile but not more plastic. It's got a jointed tail that gives it a lot of action, as well as this up and down crawl type trail with holes and ribs in it, so it creates a bubble trail almost. This bait is supposed to be fished upside down or vertical like this on a grate for a chatterbait. I prefer it on a swim jig as well, but you can also cut it down and put it on the back of a finesse jig. You know, flip it around for some spotted bass or flipping docks. Anytime you want a small, compact, little trailer for it, this is great for it. So check out the full lineup of swim-ons at bigbitebaits.com.
All right, we are back here on a Thursday. I want to remind everybody, David Fritz tomorrow, and we're going to continue our interview with
It occurred to me during the break.
Cat.
That was very smart what you did.
What?
By going to Arbuckle yesterday. So you set me up. Hey, we're going to have our annual sight fishing thing at Arbuckle sometime in the next couple weeks, then you don't tell me you're going to Arbuckle.
Well, no, I was going to tell you on the show.
Sneak off to Arbuckle so you could get the bed. This is what was going to happen.
No.
Trust me. So you could get the bedfish located. You're going to pre-fish for it. You're going to mark them. Then you're going to be like, hey, let's do this thing on Saturday, Matt.
No.
And then we would go back and you'd have all your fish marked.
No, let's go back to Rick.
Because the sight fishing wasn't on, you decided to let me in that you went down to Arbuckle and that it wasn't primed yet.
That's not it. All right.
Okay, Matt.
Jeez.
Matt, did he take his paintball gun?
No.
He should have took his paintball gun so he could really mark them then.
I know. No.
That went over some people's head, but that's really smart.
Yeah.
I've heard tomato steaks, aluminum cans on the bank, but paintball gun, that's next level.
Oh yeah, that's big time there. All right, Rick. I wanted to ask you from an inventory standpoint, engine-wise, are you guys impacted, and is the industry impacted by what's going on?
Well, we set on a solid inventory ourselves, and there was definitely a problem last year with engines. And, of course, the new product over about 2 years ago when the new product came out, no one anticipated the level of demand that, and, of course, at the time, Yamaha had been in trouble with the tsunami over and everything that went on in Japan. So Yamaha was impacted. The inventory on Yamaha was down, and Mercury had a brand-new product, so you had almost a perfect storm. And everybody's scared to death right now what's going to happen on engines. We've had a couple of engine shortages. They're individual products with one company. We haven't had a product issue with either of those two brands. That's Yamaha and Mercury, and that's the primary brands in the business structure. There's certainly, and most people don't realize this, Mercury has created 1 million SKUs this year. So we got all kinds of new numbers and AMS, CMS, gear cases, and those digital, non-digital. There's just a lot of different numbers and parts and ways you can build a motor right now. So that's created a little bit of a challenge. But when you go to the standard 250 Pro XS that's mechanical to a digital shift and digital throttle, no, we're not having an issue with that.
All right, very nice. Now, your company and you have been involved with Major League Fishing and the BPT. I know we touched on it from an Elite Series perspective, but the format that they have, obviously a different game. It sets up to where even if they can't get in the next event at Grand Lake, you would seem that they would be able to really come to the forefront of being able to just reschedule their events based upon what their format is. What are your thoughts about them fishing in the fall?
They're going to wind up with a Red Crest set, and they're going to have their World Championship for the Cup events. Those are all going to go forward. I talked to Jim a couple times this week. They're moving ahead the best they can. They had to cancel the one out on the East Coast there, Carolinas. Definitely ran into a challenge with that one, and it was probably the right thing to do with the position our country's in right now going into April. And I think they were worried about the public relations aspect. There's a lot of conversation going on about the Grand Lake event right now, and we discussed that. Whether or not they go to Grand, there's a couple of opinions both ways. Personally, if we can get some of this behind us, I think they can move forward. I don't know really whether or not they can get that. Of course, Grand Lake, you know yourself, is a power control lake, so they're not going to have to deal with the core. So they could probably move forward. They've got a little challenge, and I think there's an article running today on Major League Fishing in one of the major publications, and then they ran the one on Sports Illustrated the other day, and it was the last sport standing. But they've got a challenge in that, and that's fans on the bank. And they're trying to figure out that one because when they come in off the water, there's still, a few fans that want to shake hands, get autographs and all that. And so it kind of removes that contact aspect. So trying to figure that out. And dang sure need to, it'd be good if they could. But I think they're going to move forward, and what I talked about yesterday, and they're going to wind up with a Red Crest scheduled, and they're going to wind up with and it's going to be a good location, so I think that'll be good. And I think everything's going really well there.
All right, man. Who would you put on the Mount Rushmore of professional fishing, Rick?
Anglers, guys who fish.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really good question. Rick Clunn. And I've always respected Rick Clunn. And I'll give you all of them, but basically Rick Clunn, and I'm probably going to surprise you with a couple of these choices, but at least one of them. But Rick Clunn's definitely one. I always respected Rick Clunn. Rick had won a tournament up in New York, and you really don't realize how sharp, how smart, and I'm going to say intelligent Rick is and how prophetic he is. Rick had won a tournament up in New York. We were standing at top 100 in a line to get registered one day, and I looked at Rick, and just out of the top of my head, I said, "You keep doing that, and they're going to call you the professor." And without a thought, without a moment of hesitation, Rick looked at me and said, "I'm way too much a student to ever be a teacher."
Huh. Interesting.
And so I respect Rick a lot. A couple of others that are good, but I was always upset when Bass got away from the invitational drawing when we used to go to the invitationals and draw, because at the time I always wanted to fish with Larry Nixon, and Larry was a Texas resident. And when I was mad at Larry because he moved back to Arkansas and never draw him again because you couldn't draw home state participants.
Yeah, I remember.
So Larry Nixon's one. I think Larry's definitely, you look at what he did in Megabucks in the 80s and 90s, and that deal at Florida to know those fish are on that outside pad line and catch them. And Larry was unconscious some days. And so no doubt Larry's one of them. Today, you know, you look at Kevin, and most people don't know this. Kevin doesn't know this. Don Barone knows this. I kept a spreadsheet side up on Kevin and Rick Clunn's in an Excel spreadsheet finishes. I don't keep it anymore because back a few years back, Kevin outperformed Rick, but it's not fair because Rick never got a chance coming out at 18 like Kevin did. But Kevin's definitely one you got to put on that faceplate. And I like Kevin. Kevin was a really good friend of my dad's. Dad had drawn him, and no doubt he's an icon in the sport, and everyone wants to say, and numerically he's outperformed Rick today. I mean, that's based on my numbers, and I still have a spreadsheet, but I don't keep it. I could probably re-update it. But he had a good average finishes, good pound weights, and Kevin's outperformed Rick's performances. Again, I don't think that's fair because Rick didn't start out no kids, 18. He started out with a lot of challenges. When you start out with a family and you've got a good job and you're trying to maneuver all that, there's no doubt Rick had a lot more challenges. I think one that I don't know if he's probably that known today, and I've said this, if this man had been a Bassmaster angler, he would be considered among that group. And I think today, honestly, he's probably one of the best anglers to ever walk the sport and the most unrecognized best anglers to ever walk the sport, and that's Brent Ehrler. I think Brent, if he had started his career in Bassmaster, would be every day the word that a Brandon Polinick or anybody else is, and I think Brent's an underestimated angler. There's certainly some things happened in Brent's career and in his life that formed the way Brent Ehrler is different than he was when he was more aggressive, I'll say, as an angler. But and it's apparent those things have impacted his lifestyle and his fishing style. But I think Brent Ehrler definitely is one I think I have a tremendous amount of respect for what he's able to do with a fishing rod.
I agree. I didn't realize he's in his 40s, too.
Yeah.
It's the skinny jeans.
But, I mean, I think if Brent had he chose that Ranger path coming out of the West Coast, and he chose that FLW path, and that was a good path for him at the time. It hasn't done bad for him. But, man, I wish he'd have started on the other side because I think the popularity he had over there would have been just, you know, FLW was a good organization for what they were formed for at the time. And, you know, but you're still talking about in one day 35,000 members. And you got Bass over here in that day that was 640,000 members. So where are you going to get your most ink at?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what his remainder of his career works to, but he's got a lot of years left, and I agree with you. He's definitely a stick out there. I want to ask you this. A lot of our listeners out there, we have a lot of young listeners, they don't know what a coin flip is, and we've talked about the coin flip with several of the vintage anglers on this show. I want to know what your best coin flip story is, Rick.
I can't give you the best coin flip story. You've heard it.
Which one's that?
We patched that. that we patched that bridge up. That was an ugly one. Guido saved my tail because he knew I was catching them on one, and I drew a core angler that didn't think I was catching them. And if it hadn't been for that, boy, they all thought I was riding somebody. But, I mean, that was my best coin flip story. I've had some good coin flip stories, but I probably drew Charlie Campbell 3 times. I fished with Denny. I fished with Gary Klein. You know, I've been really fortunate. My best coin flip story is Guido Hibden, who is a good friend of mine. I met Guido in 1777, I think. Angler trying to come out of Lake the Ozarks, and Stella and Guido, I can't tell you, saw Dion Lawson at the Classic, saw Stella at the Classic, met her daughter. I had never met her daughter. So, I mean, it was really good to see them at the Classic, and Guido was a good friend. But the best coin flip story is I'm catching them at New York, and I'm smoking them. This is 1989. And I draw Guido. He says, "Are you catching them?" I said, "Yeah, I'm catching them, Geet." And he says, I said, "Are you catching them?" "Oh, I can catch, 12, 13 pounds. I said, "I can do better than that." So Guido goes with me, and we go to this little isolated little spot where it's actually the same spot that Dave Fenton was fishing, but a little different area. It was not by choice. We just happened to find it the same way. And so I'm catching them on a stick bait and a spinner bait, and I'm rolling through there, and we rolled through there that morning. My bite has changed. And I'm disappointed. I'm not catching them. And Guido looks down at this little spot, and, of course, I'm greenhorn from Arkansas. And he says, "You try fishing any of these holes in this grass, Rick?" And I said, "No, I hadn't tried that, Geet. I didn't have to. I was smoking them. You mind if I try that?" I said, "Go right ahead." So he takes his time, fiddles around, gets him a jig out, and I said, "Go ahead and take that trolling motor. Get up there and get after it." He takes that trolling motor, gets up there, and of course Guido wasn't as old as everybody thought he was, but everybody thought he was 80 when he was 40. But Guido turns around, and at the end of the day, I think he had just a little over 23 pounds.
Wow! Off of your area, fishing the grass holes.
Yeah, fishing grass, fishing holes in the rock. And, I mean, it was amazing. And I've drawn Guido several times. I drove Dion. Really good guys. Thank the world of Stella and the kids and Dion and everything. But Guido, I mean, every time Stella, this is my best draw story. So after that, I've drawn Guido a couple times, and when Guido get to needing them at the end of the year, and there were about 4 of us that would look at the end of the year. We'd know coming into the last event. Stella's one of them. Of course, Gary Klein's wife. There were 5 or 6 that would have the numbers down. I'd have the numbers down because I was watching all our guys on who needed to compete for the Classic. But Guido being that run, needing to get the Classic, Stella come up to me and, "Oh, man, I hope he draws you. We always have a big sack when he draws you."
Wow.
I said, "Stella, that doesn't work in my favor."
Wow. All right. Several people on the instant feedback, including Dave. Is there anything out there, or is there YouTube videos? Is there any kind of video content or text sheet or whatever you want to call it that says this boat runs better with this manufacturing brand of motor? Does that exist?
I think it's a matter of opinion, and opinion's going to change as engines change. There's not like one site you can go to, and I don't think there's a perfect motor today. So I think it's kind of all of them have got their benefits. You look at fuel mileage, I'm going to lean on one brand. I think one brand has a better gear case as far as stability in the water. I think another brand has more durability possibly, or at least exceptional durability. So I think it's a matter of what's an angler want. And I'm going to talk about one for a minute that just comes off the top of my head that's had a little struggle getting the market, and there's no doubt about it. But you look at Honda. I mean, I know Hondas that are running for 30,000 hours. That's unprecedented.
Wow.
But it's not going to run for a bass guy because he wants to run the speed. So there's a lot of things. I think everything, it depends upon what your need is. And we talked about this a minute ago on the 225, 250 thing. If I wanted one I was going to run forever, I'd be real careful. I'd want to, look at a guy in his 60s. He's getting ready to retire, or maybe even 70s, and he's getting ready to retire. He doesn't care about the thrill of the 80-mile-an-hour ride anymore. He might make a decision different than a 27-year-old young man that's coming out in a professional career as an engineer, draftsman, whatever he's doing, and trying to fish on the weekends and wants the very hottest pocket rocket going. So there's a real difference in engines that matches those needs.
Kind of go back to the fishing questions. I don't know if people realize. I mean, you fish over 100 tournaments, fish the all the invitationals back in the.
Don't look at the money on those.
I'm just saying, late 80s, early 90s. You've been around, but I know that you've also fished the Central Opens as recently and Eastern Opens as recently as 2018. I mean, you got Gary Klaus over there at Phoenix, who's fishing on the Elite Series. I mean, would you entertain fishing on a pro circuit like the Elite Series if you had a good string of opens and qualified for it, or do you do it because you enjoy it, or to kind of stay in it? But I mean, you've been around a lot of tournament fishing and still compete at a very high level.
You know, the tournaments are something I've always, Matt, I learned when I fished in the top 100 years ago, when I did, and I didn't fish long because I realized quick I couldn't run a boat company, have a family, and fish. And I don't feel like anybody can. And that's a really honest statement. I don't think any person can run a boat company, compete at the level they need to compete at, and run a family too. And I think that's an interesting aspect you've got, because I know how much time I put in this business. And in mid-90s, early 90s, I realized that, and I backed out, if you look at that, for quite a while. And I kind of tried to come back. And even when we got into the situation with Correct Craft, Bill said, well, why don't you go ahead and do that again? I said, Bill, we don't have time. So if I had the time, and we were working really hard here on some young men, and if my health holds up, and I'm in my 60s, low 60s, but still 60s, and if my health held up, my knees were right, and elbows and shoulders got back in shape, and I put myself back in a position, Matt, yeah, I'd love to. But the time's what it takes. And to compete at that level, some of the guys still called it pulling a Rick, and I'd get to the ramp, and the first guy on the ramp will be Skeet Reese or Rick Clunn, and they'd knock on the window, and I'd go practice, because I drove all night to get there. I worked 3 days straight and drove straight to Las Vegas, Nevada to fish mead. I mean, I worked 3 days straight in the plant and drove straight to Las Vegas, Nevada. I stopped at Flagstaff, Arizona, slept for 2 hours, and got up and went in. And I mean, those are times that I'm not interested in returning to that, and I'm not young enough to do it. That's the truth. But I'd really love to compete again. There's no doubt. I put an article on our Facebook about Bob Carnes in the 70s, winning a bit on beaver, and that was really thrilling to Bob. Fished by himself, won one of those Northwest Arkansas team events by himself, and the thrill of it, the smell in the morning, watching the sunrise, man, they're just the adrenaline rush you get. And of course, I gotta love the boat race, So,
oh yeah.
So,
you ever been fishing one of those things and you get into it with someone in a bass cat who doesn't realize who you are?
That has happened in the past.
Wow.
So I'll tell you a story, man. We'll talk story. We fished an FLW. I didn't fish much FLW, but we fished one of the Everstarts here on Norfolk. It came down one time, and I had taken a young man from Houston out, showed him how to deep fish, where they at, and he wound up catching them that way. He had a good event. First day of practice, we went out. I kind of treat those like, I don't go for a week. I go for 3 days of practice like we used to, and I still think they ought to have a cutoff. And I don't think they ought to be able to practice more than 3 days. But we wound up going the first day, and I kind of put him on what I thought he could perform on, and the next day I was going to go hit my stuff. So I get down to the ramp at 5 o'clock in the morning. There's this guy from Houston there. I don't know him. And I'm the only guy on the ramp. He's the only guy on the ramp. And so I get this guy, and I talk to him, and finally I find out he's a customer. Oh, gosh, I'm messed up now because I don't really want to take anybody with me because I'm smoking them. And I put him in the boat, said, okay, you got to swear you to secrecy. About 7:45 in the morning, he looks up at me and gives me the ultimate jinx, because I have probably got, and this is on Lake Norfolk, which at the time was not that type of lake, for most people. I had probably around 23, 25 pounds in the boat before 8 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Second day of practice, and he looks at me, he says, and it was a real unique pattern. He says, I think you're going to win this event.
Uh-oh.
And I said, you could have done anything in the world and not said that. So I go into the event the first day, and one of our guys is a photo driver with Gerald Crawford, and you know Gerald or knew Gerald. Yep. And Gerald's a great guy, and so Gerald says, are you catching them? I said, Gerald, I'm smoking them. And so, of course, everybody knows I know Norfolk about as well as anybody does. And so we go to Norfolk, and I get out in the morning, and everything's good. And I eliminate all the junk out of my boat the night before. If I don't think I'm going to use it, I took it out, so I would not go do the local homeboy things, you know. I even eliminated the line. I mean, I'm down to nothing. And just what I fully intend on fishing with is in my garage. If it's not in my garage, it's what I'm going to use today. And so the day starts, I go out there, I've got new line, I go buy a new line, won't say the brand. I make the first cast, and about the second cast, I catch one, and it's about a 5-pound spot. Ooh. And I jerk this 5-pound spot up to put him in the floor of the boat, and I watch him go right by the console.
Oh, no.
With the spinnerbait in his mouth.
Oh, so it wasn't even light line. It was big stuff.
It was big stuff, and it was bad spool. And the boy came up to me with a photo. Ivan came up to me with a photo with Gerald in the boat, and Gerald, and of course Ivan knows I'm catching them. He says, "Hey, you got them?" And Gerald knows I'm catching them. I said, I broke 2 off. I reached down and grabbed a second line. I grabbed that big spinnerbait and slung it out there, and I watched it go to a bluff wall. So that was a tough one. I got
you cast off the spinnerbait.
Huh?
You cast off the spinnerbait, like the line broke in the cast.
Broke in the cast. Yeah, I was messed.
Yeah, that does not lead to confidence.
I got to the back of the creek on the right side, and there was Takahiro. I got to the back creek on the left fork of that little creek, and there was Jeff McGee. I went to the other fork of that little creek, and there's one patch on Norfolk. I mean, literally one patch about the size of 2 of the rooms you're sitting in of grass in the whole lake. Nobody knows it's there. And David Wharton is sitting on that piece of grass sideways.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and Wharton finished 4th in that tournament. No more, he won it.
He was leading the first day. Yeah. And I looked up, and I couldn't push him, boys, you know. And Takahiro had the right deal. David had the right deal. I had the right deal. But my deal it should have panned out. Second day we had a foggy, and I wound up, you know, out and getting a check in one of those. And so it was an invitational. It wasn't an FLW event. Yeah. But I wound up getting a check at the FLW. That was in wintertime. We got postponed on the snow. But that was one of my experiences fishing. So you asked, you got it.
Yeah, I knew the ending to it because I've got your stats pulled up, but I knew something had to happen on the bass one because it didn't turn out good. And man, a 5-pounder would have jumped you way up there. Just that one fish, you'd have had like a top 50 finish.
Yeah, well, I needed more than that. It was an amazing event for me. It was a real learning curve because I'll not take all the line out of my boat again.
No. Those are the two. There's 2 questions. The 2 questions or the 2 things are when they say you're going to win or you're on them. And then the other one is when the co-angler gets in your boat and asks, how's this engine run for you? Those are the 2 questions you never answer. Because you could have no problems, whatever, but if you're, rock solid, guaranteed, you'll be stuck somewhere at the end of the day. You just look at him and say, I'm not even answering that question until we get in.
Jeez.
Yeah, I haven't been towed in too many times. I got towed in. The only time I've been towed in, Jim Moyna towed me in down at Toho one time, and I appreciate Jim doing that. And I went and bought him a food gift card and said, Jim, thanks a lot. He didn't want anything for it, so I bought him dinner anyway. But no, he was great. He towed me in. It was last minute. But that's the only time I've ever been towed in. Haven't really been down that much.
Wow. All right, couple more questions, Rick, and then we'll let you go. Matt and I talked about this phenomena here over the past, 2-3 weeks following the Classic about the $50 jackhammer on eBay going for $40 and $50 a lure. Can you remember anything from the 80s or 90s that when something happened, it just flew off the shelf and the markup was just astronomical in those early years? Does anything ring a bell?
The Big O and Fred's Big O was definitely one that was so valuable in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody trying to reproduce the Big O. You look at lunker lure, and John Kramer and the guys at Lunker Lure, John knew the old fella at Lunker Lure, and he was fishing at Wren Lake. And he actually draws Rick Clunn at Wren Lake, and he puts it on Rick Clunn and gives Rick Clunn a Lunker Lure, and Rick Clunn goes on to win the event. And and John's gone now. Rick's still here. They're probably about the same age. John's actually probably a little older than Rick, but John's gone now. Probably, you asked about boat drivers. John wasn't a pro angler, but he's probably one of the best boat drivers I ever knew in my life. That was one. The weighted rogues, and of course everybody in Arkansas had rogues, but the weighted rogues and the custom rogues were one. The wigglewort phenomena. When the wigglewort came on the Rock Lakes, the wigglewort phenomena. Of course, when Andy Foss's deal in the Alabama rig, that was a hot one. So you look at all the things, there's been a tremendous amount of them over the years, and certainly been some that had more influence than others.
I was thinking, was it a Sluggo an 80s deal? Or was that a 90s deal?
Herb Reed. Yeah. Well, see, I was running with Terry Baxay back in that day. Terry and Rick and we kind of all, Mike Murphy, we all actually room with Mike Murphy. And so that was back in the 80s, and the Sluggo and Herb Reed and Terry we were all going to dinner together. You know, Brian Kirchhoff ate dinner with us a couple times back in those days, and those were a pretty good deal, man. But go back in that time frame, and that Sluggo deal was one that anybody with a floating worm probably could have reproduced a lot of it, but not have the same action. So Sluggo was definitely one you hit, Matt.
I want to ask
Rick everybody copied it. Yeah.
Ask Rick about what we talked about with Stetson a little bit. And we had Stetson Blaylock on from Arkansas yesterday and kind of started running through the list of guys who have really made a mark in the tournament scene out of Arkansas. And you're probably one of the best guys to talk about that, but Arkansas is a really diverse fishery with a number of guys who have come out. I mean, I feel like it's an underrated state when you hear everyone talk about, Gunnersville or Florida or Texas like that, but man, Arkansas has it all when it comes to building a complete tournament angler.
Well, yeah, when before BFL, when Redman had the All-American and it was the hot starter working man's tour, and Mike Whitaker, and you talk about people he knew. I met Mike Whitaker when I was a kid in the 70s. He was teaching school, so Mike's a good guy, fished BCA out of Illinois at the time. Everybody knows Mike's stories, but back in those days, Redman and the Cast publication ran a article on the front cover, and I think Mark may remember this, just you won't, Matt, but it had a matchup of all of the competitors by division. So they had the Bulldog, they had the Cowboy, they had all of them. Arkansas's competition and success level at that time in the Redman organization was 2-1 over all others.
Wow.
So, you want to say it's today. What I'm telling you is Arkansas has been so dominant. And, back in those days, the local publications wrote about everybody from George Cochran to Mark Davis. And I'm going to give a shout out to an old friend of mine that won a Redman All-American, and that's Doc Langley. And David Langley and Doc Langley, Doc taught all of us. He taught George some. He taught Mark some. He taught a lot of us, and he taught me how to river fish, and a lot of respect for Doc. Doc's probably one of the best anglers I ever sat in a boat with. We got out here, and Mark, you remember the old pin reel tournaments on Grand Lake?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We'd have 500-600 boats, the Oil Roses deal.
Yep.
Doc come up here to go fishing at Bull, and getting ready for a Redman, and I said, Doc, I've got to go over to Grand Lake tomorrow. You want to just go fish that thing? He said, what do you mean, just get in a truck and go fishing? I said, yeah, let's just go enter that thing, and we'll fish that, because at the time we were sponsoring Doyle's deal, and we gave away like 4 boats at those events, and they'd have 500-600 boats on Grand. Go to Shangri-La, have the big banquet and all that. So Doc and I load up here, and we drive up, and we get a motel to outrigger when it was new, and we spend the night, and we go fishing the next morning, and we get out there, and at the end of the day, in that pin reel, we were in 3rd place. And we go into tomorrow, and I'm scared I'm going to win this event. And Doc, he's kind of hobbled at the time. He really needed back surgery and hadn't had it. And we're on Grand Lake, and you know how Grand Lake is. And Doc looks at me, and I said, I'm going to go down and catch those fish again. And we were catching on top water in a certain area, a certain way. And I'm not going to divulge all that, Matt. Sorry. Some things go to the grave. But that was a really good pattern, really good way. And Doc said, well, you can't reproduce that. I said, man, no, we got to, Doc. And we hadn't practiced. He just said, it won't work tomorrow. We wound up finishing, I think, 8th or 12th or 13th, I don't remember, and it was a nice check, and I think they gave away a $100,000 savings bond for 10th, and Doc, he was old enough, he didn't think he needed it, and I was young enough, I wanted it, but it was a good day. It was just one of those things where you look at the intelligence of anglers and coming out. I think Doc's one of the smartest we ever had come out of Arkansas. He finished with a lot of guys that were really sharp, and I probably taught more of us from George and myself and Mark and others more than we can probably give him credit for. And he run with George quite a bit. They were good buddies. But everybody in Arkansas kind of knows him. And there's another local guy that's probably one of the better ones that never made it pro, but a man right here that's pushing up there now, and that's a guy that's Big Max Atkinson. And Max is probably one of the best anglers you ever sat with.
He's already got the nickname. He's halfway there.
Yeah. All right, Rick, man. Wow, we've went a long time.
That's an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's just really, really good stuff. And greatly appreciate you taking time out with so much that you have going on. And once again, we want to have you on in the future, but thank you so much for being a guest and all the support, man.
Well, I didn't know what we'd talk about today, so I'm glad we got something to at least give you something to talk about, and I'm sure there's probably something we needed to get to, but thanks for everything. Thanks for your time. Thanks for Bass Talk Live. Give us something to listen to right now. So y'all do a great job.
All right. Thanks, Rick. Take care. Be safe, and we'll talk soon, man.
Be good, Matt.
All right. See you. There you have it, Rick Pierce. Fantastic stories there from a guy that's been doing this game for so many years.
I think part of his perspective that he has, obviously since he's been doing it forever, but man, he is an angler. Yeah. Like, he's there. You look at his history, he's at the meetings, he's talking to the guys, he's in it, so he gets it and he understands it from a lot of different aspects, not just the business side, not just the fishing side. He's it made a point to, I think that's important too. I mean, I know they have non-bass boats, walleye with the Yarcraft and all that stuff, but just for what he does with the Bass Cat side of it and stuff, don't you think that's important to have been in the, in the trenches for so many decades on both the business and the fishing side?
And there's not too many people in this business that have the years of experience that Rick has.
No.
I mean, in every aspect.
Yeah.
He knows everybody.
Yeah.
That's the thing about Rick. He knows everybody, past, present, and probably knows some of the superstars that are in the development for the future. So great guest. Hopefully everybody enjoyed that and some industry insights on what's taking place during these very challenging times. All right, I want to get back to this, argument or statement that you made about what I did with Arbuckle yesterday. No, dude.
Oh, being sneaky?
No, listen to me. I went down there to check and see what kind of condition it was in, to see if we could even sight fish at all, dude.
Okay.
That was it. Because I didn't want to waste a trip going down there, and we get down there and we can see 8 inches in the water and the fish haven't moved up. I thought I'd catch some cruisers. Mm-hmm. I really did.
Did you have the floating worm timer?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I will let everyone know that Mark will have a GoPro in his boat, and I will have a GoPro in my boat, so you'll be able to watch all this go down on the BTL YouTube channel. It does go down every year. Usually we put something on it. I think in the past we've put, I have to wash your truck, and you owe me a case of beer.
I've lost every year.
One year
I'm 0 for 5.
One year I didn't specify what kind of beer. It was like discontinued Bud Ice. It was like $8 for 30 of them.
Milwaukee's Best.
Milwauke's Best is what it was.
That's what it was.
Something crazy like that. But we'll put a little something. I do know when we do have it, I'm a big collector of the signed dollar bill.
Yes.
I don't have one from you, Mark.
No. Now, I was looking at the calendar. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be pretty nice on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Wind's supposed to be laid down.
I don't know if you want to be on Arbuckle on Sunday.
No. Not Arbuckle.
No?
No.
You got another one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to say what it is.
No, I don't care. 10 killer.
Wow.
It's closer to your house.
Is
I
that
love
not
going to that
50
lake.
feet high right now?
Talked to Ed Barton. He said they're catching them pretty good out of the bushes. So
Did I tell that story?
What?
Ed, when I went down there, I told the story I'd been to Ted Killer before and just had not really caught him. And Ed Instagram messaged me. He's like, you want a tip on Ted Killer? And I said, sure, I'm out here now. And he said, tie on a plug and go do this. So I said, okay. So I tie on a plug, and literally the first cast with the plug that he told me to tie on in the spot is when I load up on that 30-pound grass carp.
Oh, geez.
So for about 10 minutes, I'm like, holy cow, Ed just put me in a 10-pounder out of Ted Killer, and then it ended up being a 30-pound grass carp.
We just don't get too many days where the wind doesn't blow here.
No, I agree.
This time of the year. So we'll take a look at that. But tomorrow, David Fritz, he will not be live via Skype. He'll be a phone interview just like what we did with Rick today. So good stuff, man. Really, really cool every time Rick's on to talk about his stories and his insight on the industry. Anything else?
No, man. Stay safe. It's a good show. An hour and 40 minutes long.
Long show. It's good stuff. All right. So tomorrow, David Fritz. Don't forget, folks, please subscribe to us on YouTube. And if you're listening to us on iTunes, please leave us a rating and give us a review. Helps us out a ton. And I kind of like doing 5 shows a week, dude. A lot of work.
Well, we did it. We've done it in the past for short periods of time.
Yeah.
Remember, but it was a rotation where it was either Brent or Gary or Drew or who else? Kenyon.
Yeah.
You know, he had 7 or 8 guys when this thing first started. Here's what my homework for you over the weekend is after tomorrow's show is the very first BTL. Remember,
XM days?
No. The very first BTL. Live BTL, not XM. BTL. Remember, it was in the old studio. In the back room there. You'd carpeted the walls for sound.
Yeah.
Judasy was on there. You were on there. You remember who the first guest we ever had was?
I don't. Who was it?
Kevin Van Dam.
Was it really?
The very first BTL.
That's right. Judasy set that up.
I would love. I have no idea where that lives now. But I would love before we have Van Dam on to be able to see a little bit of that. No, not with him. I'm talking about like the day before or something. As we prepare for it. I would love to see some clips of that maybe we could throw out of the very first BTL.
That would be cool.
It's probably got a lot of blaring rock music.
Really bad
That
video.
was black and yellow back then.
That was back in,
it?
It was analog days.
Yeah. Is that on a tape somewhere?
Yeah, I think so.
Might have to dig through the archives and see if we can't find it.
Man, that was a long time ago. All right, everybody, be safe. David Fritz tomorrow. That's it. We're out of here.